I'm M. Carter Pierce, and you're watching The Daily Reel. I've been looking at a lot of things recently about what Trump has said and what Trump is planning to do. Let's be clear about one particular thing. In everything, a pattern emerges. I have told countless voters over the course of time that if you want to know what a politician is going to do, don't listen to what they tell you. Simply look at their history. What have they done before? Because what they've done before is a marker and a precursor of what they're going to do in the future. Patterns always emerge. Everything has a pattern to it. Life follows death. Earn money, spend it. Buy food, eat it. Everything has a pattern, whether you want to believe it or not. It's built into us. For example, with women, a woman that, there is no particular pattern of when, but young women have a menstruation cycle, which generally lasts 5 to 7 days. They have a menstrual cycle, then it begins to end, and then which is called premenopause. Then you have menopause, and then you have postmenopause, and that cycle is over. These things are built into us. So the best thing to do to see something wicked this way coming is to look at Trump's past and compare it to Trump's future. By the way, I had a MAGA comment to me about me sitting in my old raggedy, comfortable reclining chair when I record these videos. My response to him was, most Americans have a raggedy old chair in their living room too. It's worn, it's comfortable. Sure, everybody would like to go out and buy brand new furniture whenever they wanted to. But that privilege seems to be reserved for the billionaire class at this point, and the millionaire class. Not the average American, the 98% of the population that does not have exceeding wealth. So yes, I'm sitting in my raggedy yet comfortable chair, and it's not really raggedy, it's just old. And I'm comfortable, and I own it, and I'm not in debt for having it. MAGA seems to think that since Donald Trump is a billionaire, they're billionaires too. And they speak with that same elitist and arrogant tone. But aside from that, let's talk about something wicked this way comes. Let's start with the biggest scam that I ever heard Donald Trump say. Well, no, let me correct that. The second biggest scam that Donald Trump ever pulled. The first biggest scam Donald Trump pulled was everybody's going to get $5,000 Doge checks. Elon Musk promised that when he went to Washington, he was going to cut $1 trillion worth of waste in government. Nowhere near it. He cut somewhere around $1.5 billion, or maybe even $150 billion. But that would not sustain, those savings would not sustain $5,000 Doge checks to everybody. Elon Musk didn't really get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. He followed the Project 2025 playbook. He took jobs from veteran, experienced people in Washington, D.C., and it was systematically done according to Project 2025 and through Trump's direction. One of the first things they got rid of was the inspector generals, which was more than likely illegal. He got rid of the inspector generals. They sought to destroy the Consumer Finance Protection Board. They cut off U.S. aid, and tons of food that was supposed to go to people in starving nations sat on docks and rotted away. Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. 6 million children died because of that. 6 million. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Elon Musk is waste, fraud, and abuse. And he walked out of it with a whole plethora of government contracts worth billions of dollars. He wanted to take over the FAA and the air traffic control apparatus. He didn't get that far. But he sure got into NASA, didn't he? And yet, every rocket that he sent up recently explodes and crashes in a hail of wasted money. But he's almost a trillionaire, so he can do that kind of thing. He is the richest man in the world, after all. So what if he stomps on the little guy to make his billions? That was scam number one. The most recent scam is Trump saying that everybody's going to get a $2,000 tariff check. Mm-hmm. Right. Scott Bessent recently told us that they haven't taken in as much tariff revenue as they thought they would. Trump squeals and whines about they took in trillions. This is false. It's closer to 500 billion. And according to the numbers that Scott Bessent has presented, to give everybody a $2,000 tariff check would be approximately 50% less than what they've taken in complete tariff revenue. Not to mention, all they're doing is giving back to you the tax money that you've already paid out, because China and these importing nations didn't pay the tariffs. We did. So they'd have to give it back to us. But they don't have it. You see, Trump is too busy building a $350 bribe room. Now let's look at Trump's past for a minute. Trump is known for hiring non-union cheap labor. And when he buys things for his buildings, furniture, accessories, etc., he's also known for stiffing contractors. His game is he stiffs them, they take him to court, they use every dilatory practice in the book to stall and cajole. And these small vendors, they can't afford it legally. They can't afford the representation and wind up settling for mere pennies on the dollar. I have personally seen people who have dealt with Trump go into bankruptcy and go out of business behind dealing with him. Trump almost took the banks down with his Atlantic City. You know, the mafia, Meyer Lansky, created Las Vegas because he was smart enough to know that having a casino was a license to print money. He sent millions to Israel. Donald Trump, on the other hand, 6 bankruptcies. But you say he's such a brilliant billionaire businessman. He's a con man and a thief. What he does is he preys on American need and greed. He offers you something which you think is for nothing. But reality, either you already paid it, or he's going to take something away from you later. We recently found out that Donald Trump Donald Trump directed Stephen Miller and Linda McMahon to sell off the student debt portfolio. Elizabeth Warren caught him. What does that mean? Well, think about it. If you have a credit card and you couldn't pay it off, what they normally do on your credit report, they do a charge off. They close the account, they charge it off as a loss, and then they sell the account, which is actually not a loss, it's somewhat of a loss. They sell the account to a collection agency for pennies on the dollar. In other words, if you owe, say, $60,000 in student loans, just picking a number here, $60,000 in direct loans, student loans, and you haven't paid it, they sell it to a collection agency. The collection agency pays maybe $5,000 for it, but they still come after you for 7 years for the $60,000 with interest compounding daily. Collection agencies regularly violate the Fair Debt and Credit Practices Act, and it was the Consumer Finance Protection Board who would keep them in line. But Trump and Russell Vogt destroyed that. Meanwhile, the proceeds that they would have made from selling those loans, that loan portfolio, do you think we'd get it back? No. Where's it going to go? Well, I don't know, maybe the $1 billion retrofit of the bribe jet, which they're turning into Air Force One, but then when Trump leaves office, he gets to keep the jet. That's a security breach. Maybe it's going to go towards that $1 billion. Maybe it's going to go towards his bribe room. Don't know. But this is the evil that's coming. Trump's idea to replace Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, is to just give everybody a couple $1,000s and you go out and buy your own insurance. He said, why should we keep giving insurance companies billions of dollars every year? Well, if you're an older American or you have some kind of a serious disease, or God forbid, if you have to get a surgery, you're talking $10,000 minimum. $10,000. If you have a pre-existing condition, especially something like diabetes or cancer, that little $2,000, $3,000, that's a down payment. Your premiums are going to be astronomical. But see, that's Donald Trump. He doesn't care about you or I. He cares about what's best for his pocket, what he can steal. And another thing about Donald Trump is what's as important to him as power and money is image. He has to look tough. He has to look strong. But he wants the empathy of the American people. He wants to be a wartime president because historically, the people rally around a wartime president. And that brings me to this. They've already announced an operation name to put troops on the ground in Venezuela. We're not at fucking war with Venezuela. But you know what we want? Venezuelan oil. It's there. And Trump wants it for yet another of his grand grifts. The oil companies will be so in debt to him if he can get that Venezuelan oil right. He wants to actually bypass the Constitution to start a war. Never mind the illegal bombing without any evidence whatsoever to sustain his story. The bombing of fishing boats in the Caribbean, which he said were narco-terrorists. But there's no proof of that. Now, he wants to start a war with a nation. Even though the U.S. Constitution tells us that the power to start a war rests with the Congress. Here's how it works. The Congress authorizes the president to start a war, and then the president, as commander-in-chief, runs the war. But it starts with the Congress, not Donald Trump. And as a footnote, I just want to mention to you that it's come to our attention that there are several Supreme Court justices who are now regretting giving Donald Trump that unilateral immunity. They can fix it. They can fix it. The Supreme Court can actually go back on their own and reconsider their ruling. And if it's not workable or it's not constitutional, they could change their ruling. It's called overriding precedent. Nowhere in the Constitution or the law does it say that Donald Trump has complete immunity, or any president. It says that we are all subject to the law, with the Constitution being the supreme law of the land. Contrary to Stephen Miller's assertions that Donald Trump has plenary powers, he does not. Plenary is absolute, and Donald Trump does not have absolute power. That's a crackpot right-wing theory about what's called the Unitarian presidency, meaning that the president has all power in everything. And that stems from Donald Trump's initial misreading of Article 2 of the Constitution, where it says that under the executive branch, the power of the executive rests with the president. It doesn't say he can do whatever the hell he wants. That's his fever dream. Did I happen to mention that Donald Trump, his father, had dementia? And so does he. Something wicked this way comes. And its name is Donald J. Trump and his administration. And I'll say it again. God knows what's coming next year. We pray that the Democrats grow a pair of balls and keep their word to impeach him and get him the hell out of the office. That they totally shut down the Republican agenda, the MAGA agenda. Because I don't believe there's going to be America in another 36 months at this rate. I'm M. Carter Pierce, and this is the Daily Reel. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, except for MAGA, because we don't have time for your Trump parroting fever dreams, okay? Nonetheless, I'll see you tomorrow.